Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dissecting Fiction podcast. I'm Vinny Murphy.
And I'm Christian Kutlick.
And so, you guys might have heard we did our favorite 20 films. It was the 20 for 2020. We may do some more of those. But, we had a lot of fun doing that. And we both compiled our lists kind of different ways. And we thought it would be fun to do one more film for each of us that we could discuss a little bit about that almost made the list, that came like real close to making the list, but didn't, but we think is really interesting. So indulge us in that, and hopefully you already have indulged us on the favorite 20 films. But Christian, I'll let you lead off on this one. What film did you pick that almost made your list, but did not get to that top 20?
I almost put on The Seventh Seal, which is a very old movie, but I feel like it kind of exists as kind of a touchstone, not in American cinema, but in like European cinema. It is a film about like existential faith and the Crusades, and has that very famous scene of the knight playing chess against death, and that's mostly what it's known for. But I think The Seventh Seal, to me, holds up even now. A lot of older movies, basically before the 80s and maybe like 1975, kind of start to struggle with pacing. And I just think that's just how movies were made back then. I mean, that's just kind of something you have to deal with. But I think The Seventh Seal is kind of like immediately engrossing to me, just because of the way that the atmosphere is like, it's kind of just immediately dark and dreary. It's very German in that way. And I super enjoy it.
A big touchstone in filmmaking. I would say that, it's a good pick as you're outside of your top 20 because it's a very, like, film buff film. Like, it's on Criterion. It's going to be one of those ones where, like, how have you not seen this if you're trying to make film? It's a cool one. I agree with the pacing is tough on it. Older films can be kind of difficult to watch. The good thing is, with all of the different services now, a lot of the older films are becoming extremely accessible. And I think we're going to see a bigger influence from these older films start to kick in the next couple of years.
God, I hope so. Because, like, I can't imagine, like, a next generation of filmmakers influenced by, like, fucking YouTube with, like, Logan Paul or those weird, like, CGI, like, spam YouTube videos where they're just like nonsense and made by like sweatshops in India just to make as many views as possible.
The funny part is, and I have a firm belief, and this goes with like everything, with like every genre of music, every type of film, someone eventually will make it into something very impressive. It's just the eventuality of all art is like art it can start off as just either completely, based around money or just completely like idiotic, and then someone's going to see something in it and they're going to be able to turn it into something else. And that's my hope for all that. But no, I think we're going to see such a cross influence in film in the next like 10, 15 years that it's going to be amazing because everything is so available.
I'm going to love the Iron Man and Seventh Seal crossover.
Someone will make it work. We're gonna get, we're gonna get like very strange black and white superhero movies soon. My pick is something that actually came very close to making the list. I think it only got eliminated maybe in like the last like 10 or 15 movies that I went through. Just happened to have some big guns in there. Now, some of you who know me well think that I'm about to say Josie and the Pussycats. That was close too. And we will absolutely do an episode on Josie and the Pussycats. For now, there's a really great podcast called Josie and the Podcats that's out there. And they did so much research that we're not going to touch it for a little while. Let's see if a Blu-ray or 4K pops up, and then we'll start talking about it again. But yeah, I do want to talk about Josie and the Pussycats, don't get me wrong. But the picture that almost made the list is a real weird one that a lot of people have not even heard of. It's a movie called Amazon Women on the Moon. which is not exclusively about Amazon Women on the Moon. It is essentially a sketch anthology film, not dissimilar from Kentucky Fried Movie. In some regions, it was actually promoted as the sequel to Kentucky Fried Movie, so it's debatable whether it is or not. Segments directed by Joe Dante, Carl Gottlieb, Peter Horton, Robert K. Weiss, and John Landis. Obviously, that's a lot of a through line to Kentucky Fried Movie. The Amazon Women on the Moon name comes from the fact that you're supposed to be watching a late night broadcast of this really terrible science fiction movie, and the segments that cut in kind of like push into the film. It's hysterical. I think it's so underrated that I can't believe that so many people that I know love sketch comedy don't talk about this movie. It has a huge cast. Arsenio Hall's in it, Michelle Pfeiffer's in it, Joe Pantoliano's in it, David Alan Grier, Ed Begley. Just it goes on and on and on. Who is in this movie? You also get Carrie Fisher by its end. It's just nuts. It's really funny. Every sketch has its own little tone to it. It is coming out on Blu-ray in November. If you haven't ever seen it, try to track it down. I guarantee you'll get a few laughs out of it, even if you don't like every segment. For reference, I'm not going to ruin anything. Video Date happens to be my favorite segment, featuring Andrew Dice Clay, of whom I am a fan of, especially his films, because no one talks about his films anymore. But I couldn't recommend it more. It's just this bizarre movie that almost shouldn't exist.
It sounds like a movie Mystery Science Theater would do.
You see, it's not even like Amazon Women on the Moon, the fake framing movie. Yeah, it would be the movie they do, but then it just turns all these fake commercials. It's crazy.
It sounds interesting. Sketch comedy is always a mixed bag, though, because I am always you've seen it with SNL. Like 90% of SNL skits are just not worth remembering. But I feel like with sketch comedy movies, you're a bit safer in that regard.
Yeah, because you do get to switch off frequently, not unlike a horror anthology where if you get one that isn't so great, you always have hope that the next one's going to be okay. In this case, I would say, if Kentucky Fried Movie is kind of considered the sketch comedy movie, I think Amazon Women on the Moon is stronger. There are chunks of Kentucky Fried Movie, the fact that the Kung Fu movie sequence goes on for an extremely long time, where I feel like it starts to lose it a little bit. This one, I never feel that way. And like I said, I can't believe it isn't referred to more.
You said it was Joe Dante on it, right?
Yeah, Joe Dante is one of the directors. All the directors who are mentioned do a couple of different sketches. Joe Dante, of course, has Dick Miller in one of them because Joe Dante loves to work Dick Miller, and we loved him for that as well. But yeah, it's mixed up. There's quite a few different segments, none of which go on for very long, and that I think is also a strength of it.
Well, it's interesting you called it a sequel to Kentucky Fried Movie too, which is, I guess, its more famous brethren.
Yeah, it was promoted as a sequel in some regions. It doesn't seem to actually be, but how could you have a sequel to that anyway? I guess it is in the same way that Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, a lot of people refer to as Creepshow 3 because it's a lot of the same people and kind of a similar setup. I think it's a lot stronger than that. And you had a lot of these movies come out and they don't get too much recognition anymore. There's a movie called The Sex O'Clock News that was really similar, where the setup was that it was a news broadcast and it had all these raunchy sketches built into there. The Groove Tube, there are a lot of them. Almost none of them survive, except for Kentucky Fried Movie. And Amazon Women on the Moon does have its fans and does get released on pretty much every format. But it's just not really that well known. It's not really a genre that has a huge fan base.
Yeah, I guess that's why it's interesting you pick it, because it's such a weird, like, I guess, offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot.
Right, and it was just like, as I was saying, the way I built that list when I was doing the top 20, like, I can't say I like this more than RoboCop, but I think it's super interesting, and I think it's hysterical.
Well, I'll give her a watch one day. Maybe that's a future Unstable Reactor.
Yeah, that would be fun. Well, now you know a lot about it, though.
Yeah, that's
All right. Well, if you guys think there's anything, in our top 20s that you want to ask how they didn't make it, and now like even the sort of dark horse ones that didn't make it, please comment, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. We're all over social media. Just type in Dissecting Fiction into Google. You'll find us. And please share this video if you thought it was fun. Support your local businesses. As you know, we are affiliated with ToyStoreGuide.com. They've got a lot of good resources to track down private toy stores, comic shops, that type of stuff. So do check them out. But I guess that really brings us to the end of this one. I'm Vinny Murphy.
I am Christian Cutlick.
And thanks for listening.